people don't really care about music anymore. They just want content. Like,
This is promo.
yeah, this is the new age we're in. People care about this.
That's you.
They mainly care about this.
Yes,
This is true.
Lots of books.
In particular, this.
Speaking of, here's the music book for you.
Oh wow.
We got that one. We found that one especially.
Book of music. I could learn.
I don't know
a thing
what's
or
in
two.
there.
I don't actually know that much about music.
Just making beats in your bedroom.
Except for this mic, the SM7B by Shaw, is the Michael Jackson Thriller mic.
There you go.
Fun fact.
That's actually the one as well.
No, that'd be an expensive acquisition.
Is that a microphone that has not changed since, what was that, the 80s?
Yeah, it's pretty it's just a household name mic. It's really cheap. I mean, you can pick one up for like.
I mean, that's why we put them.
So cheap. Yeah. I was thinking actually, what a terrible use of budget that would be if you had like spent most of the BTL budget on the actual Thriller mic, and you're like,
I think it would have been genius.
and like the rest,
never mention it until
the rest
now.
of the club is a shithole. Like, got a nice mic.
Well, anyone that listens to this may not have ever seen beyond these walls.
That's
so
true.
for all they know, we just live in a library.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to Before the Lights. If you're new here, we're a team of health professionals based in London who train people from all over the creative world to get ready for TV, film, even live shows, but most importantly, for everyday life. I'm Dave Hasty.
I'm George Ashwell.
I'm Georgia Canavan.
And I'm Josh Betteridge.
We've been lucky enough to build a pretty special group of members here at the club, so we thought it would be nice for other people to get to know some of them as well as we do.
I was like, I need to start going to the gym. So I literally got out my laptop, and was like, PT's for actors.
Welcome to Before the Lights podcast, guys. I'm Greg James. With me over here is Dangerous Dave, and here is Evil George. And today we're talking grind set.
Grind set.
It's not about mindset, guys. It's about grind set.
It was the very first time I met you when you came in and you actually had to run off and be sick in the toilet.
You feel quite vulnerable when you're kind of lying on your back with your legs up in the air because you feel sick, just breathing, and I'm like, this never happens. I'm so sorry.
So sit back, only do some exercise if you want to, and maybe even learn something about how to look after yourself. Today's podcast is definitely going to be an interesting one for quite a few reasons. So we're chatting to our first musician of the series as we welcome the producer, DJ, songwriter, SG Lewis to the show.
Hi guys, it's an honour.
Thank
Truly.
you for being here. You could say that with a little more enthusiasm.
Truly an honour.
It's truly an honour.
That's better. That's
okay,
better.
cool.
Thank you. We often say on the show that the clients feel like our family as we get to know them. But today's guest is a literal blood relative of Before the Lights.
Yes.
Because as well as being an all-round musical genius, that's what we're going to go with.
I didn't say it. You said
I
it.
said it. Sam's most important title is Big Brother to Josh Lewis, who
Yes.
happens to be a much-loved member of the BTL training
Here
team.
he is.
Hello.
First time on the podcast.
You can speak now.
Yeah,
You can
I
speak
didn't
now,
know if I was
Josh.
allowed to speak.
No, no, you
I didn't
can.
want to ruin the surprise.
Only when I'm pointing at you.
Yeah, excited to be here. I'm excited to be the fact checker of the day. you know?
Fact checker.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh,
Make
God.
sure that you're not chatting shit. That's why we're here.
I only chat shit.
Yeah. And we figured, seeing as Josh knows you better than anyone else, we would
He
bring
does.
him in. He
Certainly
can chip
do.
in whenever he wants
For
with
better or for
corrections.
worse.
He does know me rather well, but I don't think I've ever done any form of like media press with my brother sat
Yeah,
next to me.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it,
maybe your other brother.
it makes not.
He's in
He's
the
been in
room,
the
maybe.
room.
He's
Yeah.
Who,
behind
to
the
add,
scenes.
add context to that, is your manager, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But the problem with doing podcasts next to Josh is that like the stark contrast of his flowing hair and handsome good looks. You know.
Stop it. Stop it.
Don't worry, because
It's
we
being
can,
nice because the cameras are on.
we can make sure Josh, and we will, is thoroughly out of shot
Great,
for the
excellent.
majority.
We could just put like a pixelated blur on his face
be
just
great.
for my own ego.
Is that the general consensus in the family that he's the handsome one?
He's pretty handsome.
Stop it. This is just not. I'm blushing, guys.
Yeah.
I think when I was younger, I just got so much shit given to me, and now I'm slightly older. They're like, you know what, we're gonna be nice to you now. We're gonna give you something.
balance
I'm
in the
also a
scale.
youngest brother. It's a tough ride, but
Yeah.
yeah, at the end we win.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the easiest path.
Yeah,
through,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, we
Look,
did.
look,
we
look,
did
this
give
isn't
you
a brothers podcast.
help.
And let's dig into how Sam and Josh
Yeah.
ended up part of the BTL family. So if I'm not mistaken, it's a story that begins with Sam or SG's parents being on a beach with George's now fiance.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Which is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really. I always like forget that link,
Yeah.
and then like I kind of cringe all over again because I can just imagine like my parents approaching Yaz.
So how did it happen? Because that's kind of all I know about it as well.
So I think about 6 months before I met Yaz, she'd gone on a solo holiday to St. Lucia, and sitting at a beach, it was like a wellness holiday, but there was like drinking involved. It was like a kind of bit of both kind of holiday.
Sounds like a holiday.
Yeah, it sounds perfect.
Yeah.
And she's sitting on the beach and she hears some like music playing out of a tinny little speaker and like a rowdy bunch of kind of
Old people.
middle-aged people.
Yeah. You can't say I say old people.
Yeah, I think like 3 couples, and they kind of beckon her over, or like she asks what they're drinking. They're like, "Oh, come join us if you want." And
They sound like swingers.
yeah, basically.
This story sounds like it's going in quite a dark direction.
It definitely doesn't.
We love your vibe.
It's a strawberry daiquiri if you want one.
Sorry, Mum.
So she proceeds to kind of introduce herself to them, and they ask what she does. She says she works in music. She works as a radio DJ, presenter, DJ, and they were like, "Oh, you'll know our son." And in Yaz's head, it was, "Oh yeah, everyone thinks I'll know everyone because they work in music." And they say SG Lewis, and she goes, "Oh no, I actually know your son. He's my friend." Proceeds to spend the rest of the holiday with them, just getting drunk and having fun. And I think at one point, didn't you text Yaz going, "By the way, there's a woman in St. Lucia pretending to be you"?
I think that was the message. It was like I was just getting this feedback from Mum and Dad, and they were like, yeah, we're like hanging out with Yaz, and I was like, this is not happening. And I think I even spoke to Clara Info about it, because I had to kind of
Double checking.
fact check it, and I was just like, this is not happening.
The
Please.
thing I love most about that story is Yaz went away on this spiritual retreat, solo holiday, find myself, so ended up getting hammered with a group of old people.
Yeah, basically did, yeah.
So I didn't realise in the timeline this is before you two met.
Yeah, so we met 3 or 4 months after that.
Oh.
So we weren't together, and
This
then
was
this
basically
kind of,
his job interview.
yeah. Well, this kind of led to. So she'd spoken about the fact she'd been single for a certain amount of time, and then when we met, she talks to your mum all the time, because that's the type of person your mum and my fiance are. So they chat all the time, and she was like, "Well, I've got a new boyfriend," and your mum and dad were instantly like, "Bring him over, bring him over to meet the whole family." It was like,
God.
I think I met your parents not that long after meeting her parents, as the next level of meeting the parents.
Yeah, I love that. It's
So
like,
insane.
yeah, you meet
So
her
yeah, we're
first.
sitting at dinner. You're not there,
Uh-huh.
Sam, but the rest of the family,
Oh,
Josh,
that's
Alex,
right.
and the girlfriends, everyone was there.
They
Around a
don't
big
invite
table.
me
This is
to a
such
family
this is so weird.
Yeah,
It's
I didn't
so
notice that. It was
weird.
strange,
This
and it was,
is
and,
so
and they live about 20 minutes from our house as
Yeah.
well. So we were like, great, dinner party around the corner. And then in that, Josh, who was also an actor, Josh turns to me at some point and says, "Oh, you work with actors a lot. I'm looking for a new agent. Do you know anyone?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can send
Just
a few
try
emails."
my hand.
Yeah.
Worth a swing.
After he'd had 5 beers, give me an agent, man.
I sent a few emails, and then he was texting me afterwards, and he was like, "Oh, I'm a trainer as well." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." Or we spoke about it, and, and I was like, "Well, come into the gym and come and train us, or do something."
And
we
you
said
never
it
got
works.
rid of
And
me.
now he's been there for 2-3 years.
Josh
now?
was
Up to 3 years.
our second after George's. Josh
Second
was our
employee,
second
yeah.
employee.
Little did you know, he was neither an actor nor a trainer. He was just trying his hands.
Yeah.
He-
We don't actually have his qualifications
he
on
should
file.
be an actor
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he acted as a trainer.
Yeah,
very well.
Exactly.
So yeah, and now we're here. Look, Josh has been 3 years with us.
Oh my
3 years,
god,
yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
time flies.
This
Best
poses an
3 years.
interesting question, though. Does the fact that Josh's job is directly tied to his mum and dad make him a nepo baby?
Oh,
It's a classic bit of nepotism.
Is Josh a personal training nepo baby?
Yeah, I think so. Hey, look, it's worked out well for us.
Yeah.
It's worked out well for us.
Nepotism wins again.
Exactly.
There we go.
I'll take it.
Now, Josh, you have to go sit in
Bye,
the corner.
guys. It's been wonderful.
It was a lovely story. It was a
now to
lovely
SG.
story.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
No, I
Josh.
need to talk to your big brother.
Now time to talk about me.
Now let's actually get back on track and discuss how training and fitness plays a part in your life. I think most people will think like the life of a DJ would be pretty much the opposite
the antithesis
of a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that like historically that's true, you know, and kind of like the hedonism of, you know, nightlife. I mean, that's like the business. You're selling people escapism and hedonism. So, and I think that like the kind of like typical 90s like rock star DJ thing is like, yeah, they live it. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of hedonism around, but I would say that like especially the last like 5 years there's a real kind of shift towards like the balance of it, you know, like a lot of health and fitness, or a lot of DJs are sober now, or a lot of people like do sober periods, or you see kind of, I mean, even now you have DJs like Josh Baker coming up who are like DJs, but then they also have like a following that are interested in their like marathon running and stuff, and it's kind of part of the like the package. So, but it's definitely, I think it's become more prevalent as like people also talk about like mental health and stuff. Like you know, I'm 10 years deep in it. I'm 30 years old, but I started professionally at like 20, and like I like spent a lot of years like very anxious and a bit like prone to like little bouts of like depression and stuff, and I just like wasn't really looking after myself, and that's why somewhere like Before the Lights is a haven.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know?
There you
When
go.
when you started, because I was interested to ask like what age were you when it like kind of kicked off, because I guess with most musicians you kind of done it your whole life to a certain extent. Like,
Yeah.
you've played around with things, and then there's a period where all of a sudden you go, oh shit, this is my job now.
Yeah, I basically I was always good at music. Like it just came naturally to me, and like I like no one in my family historically played instruments, or like, you know, my brothers were like musical as well. Like we were in bands together and stuff, but like I just really hyper fixated on it, and then so I was meant to go and study mechanical engineering at uni, and my form tutor at the time like called me in at lunch, and I was like, oh, I'm in trouble for something, and he was like, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're applying to like go do mechanical engineering. I was like, is that not what I'm meant to be doing?
Sounds like a good thing.
And then he was basically like, listen, I'm an IT teacher, like, but I wish I'd given it a shot. And he was like, and I think you'll regret it if you don't give it a shot.
It's amazing you had that person there, because a lot of people maybe don't have that influence that's like, you're good enough to give this a go.
Or the exact opposite, like don't become an actor.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
Yeah, and there's so much of that. So yeah, I really do owe him massively. And it's funny, I've been like waiting for the moment where I feel like I'm at the point where I can go like call them up and be like, thank you. And like weirdly the moment kind of creeps up on you. All of a sudden you're like, oh wait, I do this for a living, and like it puts food on the table.
Like
so.
I said, it's been 10 years in the industry, which is not many people manage even that.
I do need to hit him up, but basically then from there went to uni, and my parents, like, you know, my dad grew up like council estate Maidenhead, like started his own print business, went to work, but like had no concept of like going to work as like a passion, you know. It's like putting food on the table, providing for a family, and so they were very supportive, but they had like no idea when I was like, I want to be a music producer. They were like, all right, so my dad was like, all right, you have like, you can go to uni to study sound engineering, so you have to go to university. He was like, you have to like go and study something, just because like if you just go off into one, you're like, I'm a musician, which does work for a lot of people, but for whatever reason,
that in itself is another great bit of advice, I think, isn't it? Because it's like adding structure to the thing that you think you want to do. Like, I mean, the thing is, I went to like music university, Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, and so basically I had 3 years to figure out. My dad was like, if by the end of it you haven't figured it out, you have to go like do a proper degree or get a real job. So I was like, cool. I was on a course that was like focused mainly on like sound engineering, like, you know, like sound waves and how they react in a room and how a compressor works, and I was like,
this is boring.
I want to make tunes. So then I stopped going to my lectures, and I was failing my course, but I was making these tunes in my dorm or wherever I was.
So you just had at this stage, you got like a laptop and keyboard and that.
We had access to some studios, but to be honest, I hardly ever went there. I was just in my bedroom on some headphones, and so just started making stuff and putting it online. And I remember there was this weird kind of intersection where my stuff started getting picked up, and then I did a remix that got played on Radio 1, but I was still in school, and then I got my first like commissioned remix for PMR Records at the time, which was for Jessie Ware, and I had like this bit of coursework, and you had to like basically submit this piece of music that showed that you could do X, Y, Z. And so I submitted my remix. I remember sitting down with the tutor for the course, and he was like, well, it's really fucking good, but I have to fail you. He was like, you haven't done anything I've asked you.
You've just given me a song.
But he was like, but it's banging. And so he failed me. And then
What was it? What did he need? Surely if you've given him a song, you've given him a song.
Basically, you have to show that you
you're
know
working.
like MIDI protocol, and like it's like if you just gave them answer in maths, like they'd fail you. But you have to show you're working, sort of thing. And so it's basically that. And so then literally weeks later, the label that I did the remix for offered to sign me for 4 albums, and then
Amazing. That's
Now
like
you're
the
here.
way
I didn't even know that. Because
Hey, look.
that was fire, but I'm gonna have to.
And it's funny because his name is Mark Atherton, I think it was, and he was like a bit of a raver back in the day. He used to tell stories about like the Hacienda and stuff. He was like, and then so he was like, it's fucking sick, but he was like, but you get an F. Yeah, and I was like, oh.
So then at that point, did you finish your degree? Did you leave?
So signed the record deal, and then went back to university, and I wanted to finish my degree, and it was late in my second year at this point, and so we sat down with the head of the uni, and we had this meeting, and he's this the head of uni is like, I forget his name, but he was like quite a character, and we sat down with him, and I was like, listen, I've signed a record deal to like Universal Music, and like I just really want to finish my degree. And he was like, why? And I was like, what?
I like the sound of music lectures. Like the opposite
like
of everything
these
else.
3 kind of pillars of your career have been the most honest like teaching professionals I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like just being like, sack off education.
yeah.
You don't
That's the
need
thing.
it.
If they can see someone's
Yeah.
got the talent,
I mean,
and
it's a
understands how to
risky,
do
it's a
it,
risky
then-
gamble though, because if you'd have done it and whatever, I mean, you'd already signed a label by this point. So it wasn't too bad.
He was kind of like, you can come back. He like
Fair
so it
enough.
Gave you an open
yeah,
door.
he was like, you can come back, but he was
would hope
like,
so.
he was like, listen, you're like, a lot of people come here to learn how to do the thing so that they can then like go on and do the thing professionally. And he's like, if you're
Already done
doing the thing,
Amazing.
fuck off.
What was it like going from when you've left university into that kind of full-time artist role? Because that, in my head,
Nothing
I'm like, you're
changed.
just going wild partying.
Yeah. So basically, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I sit here today in this place of health, and like I live a pretty healthy lifestyle now. I'm balanced, but like I partied hard.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think I know anybody that would have got like from that story you've just told, and then just been like
No.
composed. Everyone's going
Especially
big.
from
as
our
soon as that happens.
especially from our generation. Like I know it's not a big amount of time, like 12 years. But
Yeah.
the kids coming through now and the way that partying and alcohol and drugs and whatever are portrayed now amongst this kind of current generation of teenagers, like it's seen as uncool.
It's not cool.
It's
It's
really
not
not
cool to
cool.
get fucked up. Whereas like I was like on the tail end, or when I was like starting out, it was like the scream banger like generation of like Jackmaster, RIP. Like they were like rock stars. Like you just look up to them and be like, part of it was they're like, we're playing a set, but we're also gonna chuck a CDJ in the crowd, and and we're gonna like completely tear the place apart, and like that was cool. Like
And maybe
whereas,
we won't finish. 'cause
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
So, yeah.
whereas like now it, like I posted, I was like, I've done 50 days sober, and everyone like I got more likes than like I've got a new tune. Like, everyone's like that. So that it's funny the shift. But I basically, when you sign a record deal, you get something called an advance, which is like a chunk of cash, and it's at the time I hardly had a penny to my name. It was like I
A hell
just
of a lot of money.
You're like,
Yeah.
boys, we're going to Ibiza.
and
Come on,
I
mate.
actually did.
Which,
Well,
which we've done every
3
year
years.
since.
I will.
Yeah.
I will get to that because that came like I signed at 20 or 21, and that came at 25 because I was always like, when I can afford to take all my boys to Ibiza,
I'm going to do it.
Also,
We
I just want to quickly interject, like,
Fact checkers here.
when you first signed the deal,
Yeah.
you were so young, like
Yeah.
insanely young.
I-
and weirdly at the time I thought you were older and more mature and things like that. But like if I think about what I was doing at 20 and what you guys are probably doing at 20, it's huge to have that. At that age,
I
you know?
thought I was like a man, you know. You're like 20 and I was like, cool, I have it figured out. And but like I look at photos of myself now and I'm like, I was a baby, and I was just like thrown into this thing. But like basically I got given this advance, but no one tells you at the time. Basically when you sign a record deal, all of a sudden you employ all these people. You get like
I've heard
lawyers,
this kind of
and
stuff,
you get accountants, and you have management obviously, and you have agents, and you pay tax for the first time. So I get given this chunk of money, I'm like, I'm rich.
Spend it.
And so every time I go to the bar, I'm just like, bang, drinks on me. And just like, we had a fucking good time, me and my like schoolmates, but we were just like, we'd just go to bars and I'd just be like, just like, we'd be in like
burning through it pretty quick.
Phonox and Brixton. And I remember my first accountant, and then I paid my tax return, and she was like, and so you have about 600 quid in the account. And I was like, shit, what? And at this point, the reason you're given in advance is because like you aren't making money out the gate in music. It takes a long time to build a fan base, build a business, and all these things. So I had like a period of my life which is really strange, because like I was living this like music life, but I didn't have like any money. And
it's supposed to be like your wages for while you build who you are, right?
Yeah, exactly. We might have to cut this out, I don't know if I can say this, but I had a Nando's black card at the time, and I was so broke, but I had a black card because I was like,
you can always eat.
And so I used to eat Nando's twice a day, like 6-7 days a week, and I started to like smell of the stuff. Like, I mean, I love Nando's. I reckon there was a point where I was like, if there was a top 10 like people in the UK eating Nando's, like the most amount, I reckon I was up there somewhere.
At that stage in your career, then it's like obviously you're out quite a bit. You've got money for the first time, and your friends are around you, and it's great fun.
Well, I thought I did.
Yeah. You thought you did for a few weeks. Yeah. Is there a feeling then of like you can just carry on? There's going to be no negative impacts and consequences on your health from all this kind of stuff, because it's at that age you could probably get by and be fine, but I think you probably don't realise it until a bit later, do you?
So it's funny, right? Because out the gate, I'm like, boom, like I did it. I signed a record deal, and you know, this is a classic like music industry thing, but like you think when you sign a record deal you made it, but like when you sign a record deal, day one,
you need to make
stuff.
Now.
You got the job, but like no one knows who you are. You haven't done shit yet. So I like party pretty hard, and I was like, you know, just like out and about, spending the advance, and I kind of did 2 EPs, and then I hit a bit of a brick wall. And like, it's funny to say this now because like luckily I'm not someone who like suffers with this anymore, but I'd have these like bouts of depression, like quite like heavy, just like periods of time. And I was touring, and I remember being in New York, and I couldn't afford to have a tour manager with me at the time, and like, so I was just by myself, and I didn't know anyone in New York. And I remember sitting in this hotel room, and I had like a week between shows in New York, which sounds amazing, but I remember like being on like the verge of tears, because I was like so lonely, but then also just like my chemical balance, like I didn't do things like go on a run, or I didn't have like exercise in my life like I did now. I was just kind of like probably on some massive come down in New York by myself, just like I don't know anyone, and a bit freaked out. And it's so when I think back to it now, it's like, and obviously it's part of getting older, and like, you know, you have to kind of like swing the pendulum one way to come back the other way, all that stuff. But like I think about it now, and I was like, fuck, I was like so miserable, or not overall. There was a lot of fun stuff about it, but like in that moment, I was like, God, this is really tough.
I think everyone's had that feeling of like you're in a really fun environment, and it's awesome opportunities and stuff. But like with our line of work, occasionally we'll be away in, like, I had a summer basically, and it sounds really fun, on Lake Como.
Oh yeah.
But spending a lot of time on my own. Yeah. And being just like, like there's nothing to do, no one to talk to, you don't know anyone. Like it can get lonely. Like, obviously it's a beautiful place to be, and you can go outside and do things to fill your time, but days of really kind of only having like maybe one person to speak to can get a bit sad and lonely.
And it takes like a long time to get to a point in yourself where you can do that and are comfortable doing that. Because like, you know, I didn't learn that until I was 28 or 29. Like, this is only like 2 years ago or so, like, that I finally learned like how to be on my own, and because I was just always surrounded by people and noise, and like there was like, we'd be touring and we were doing the live show, there'd just be like so many people around. So even when I thought I was alone, I was never alone. But then like when I spent like an extended period of time alone, like at the age of like 28, and then I was like, oh, whoa.
Is this something that like other musicians and producers talk to each other about? So you've obviously, like, in your career, you've worked with people like Calvin Harris a fair bit, who've experienced this big boom, and he was everywhere and still kind of is. Do people share little bits of information to each other? And like if you're a younger musician coming through, do you find there's people that have been like, hey Sam, come and have a chat, and like that kind of stuff, looking out for each other?
It really depends. Like I know someone like Calvin on a professional level from like the publishing deal we did together early on and stuff, but I wouldn't say I'm on like terms where I like text Calvin and be like, I'm feeling a bit sad. Like, you know? But for instance, like one of my closest friends is another artist. His name's Orlando. He produces music under the name Totally Enormous Extinct Dinosaurs.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
We used to spend a lot of time going to see him play in Bristol as students.
At
Motion. I
That was one of the regular.
it was like
gigs
some
that
of
we
the
go to.
most fun nights out that we've had.
Yeah. He's a legend, and he lives in LA now, where I spend a lot of like the winters and a lot of time, and he, as well as being a close friend, that is someone I have that relationship with, and we kind of like lean on each other. Hopefully, I think it's not one way. That I lean on him for like not only like musical advice and stuff, but like anxieties about the industry and like how it's changing, like worries about how we're going to continue to like have a place in music and how it changes, because you know it's always evolving and changing. Like you said, like to be in like an industry for 10 years, like I mean, I do take it for granted. I've been like really lucky and stuff, but it changes all the time, and you have to like adapt to move, and like, and there's moments where you look at it and you're like, I don't recognize this thing anymore, and you feel like.
I wanted to ask you that. It's like, do you adapt with how music changes, or do you go, I'm going to stick to my guns because I know what I like to make?
Yeah, so what it is, I think that, you know, to pretend that I'm not influenced by outside culture would be
all
like,
music is influenced by
I think to pretend that I'm like an island of sorts would be like a lie. I think that I've always like made the music I want to make, but my taste is often a result of what I'm consuming. And often that's what other people in my position, or like, because you know, if you're someone who's very interested in music, you know, you get these cycles, like where, you know, for instance, if we were playing like trance music like 5-6 years ago, we'd be like, the fuck is that? But all of a sudden everyone's like, you go see a lot of DJs, everyone's playing fast, everyone's like playing trance. So I think the answer is that I'm never looking at stuff, and like, for instance, tech house is huge right now, but it's not really my like thing. I might play a tech house record in a set, but like I'm not a tech house artist, and it's not really something I resonate with musically, so I'm not gonna make it. No, but there will be parallels with like stuff that's popular, because I just have a shared taste with people who are out there. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of both, really.
We'll swing back towards our fitness side of the podcast.
Yes.
'Cause we're in a very unique position.
Yes.
Where your trainer has also known you your entire life, and his entire life.
Yeah.
And what I want to know, like we touched on it a little bit there, where you were saying like at times early on in the career, it's not like you would have got up and gone for a run to clear your head, that kind of thing. Can J-Lo, have we called you J-Lo yet? So Josh Lewis, aka in the gym, J-Lo.
Yeah.
J-Lo. It's like,
And we also, as people that listen know, we have another Josh, so it gets very confusing.
Yeah. I use J-Lo more than I use Josh.
From now on, it's J-Lo on the podcast, but I feel like we had to give it some context.
Otherwise,
in case listeners would be like, J-Lo's here.
We have Jennifer Lopez just sat in the background.
What I want J-Lo to give us some input in is a a brief evaluation of Sam's fitness journey
Sure.
as you've seen him go through his like professional journey as well? Like what things
For
have you
sure.
seen change?
Like I really have those memories of you being in Liverpool, but also I remember just thinking when I went to your house, like, whoa, you guys are like chilling. You're like you're going out loads and stuff. There wasn't much of a fitness focus
Living
while
like-
you're in Liverpool. Although
living
you did
like
gym.
pigs.
Yes.
You did gym a bit, but I think the vibe was like you would go to the gym, then you would crush like 2 litres of milk in a McDonald's to like try and bulk up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Really like toxic.
Classic
I mean,
university.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly how we do things.
Yeah,
too.
we-
Yeah.
that's what we do.
God, I just gave away the secret. The DTL secret.
It's funny because I like always had crazy metabolism. I was that kid that just I played like, you know, wing in rugby. I was like lanky. I like grew very quickly at a certain age. So I was just like a bit beanpole-y, but like I was
Probably
just
never had to think too much about
no.
being unhealthy.
No, I could just like nail the large dominoes, like no guilt, and like I ate shit, to be honest. And then, you know, it's typical like cliche. Dad was always like, "Oh, one day that's
Catch up
gonna
with
change."
Yeah.
And then I swear to God, like my 30th birthday, like it was like a switch went off, and like I was just kind of like continuing as I do, and like, you know, Josh has really like got my fitness into a pretty like just solid foundation over the last
I
few
was going to
years.
say,
like-
was there a point where you started, like, as Josh has kind of begun his career and then he's ended up working with us, did you start reaching out to him, being like, can you help me a bit?
So actually, this is a good story. So I was like living in LA, and then I had a relationship that ended, and I basically like left LA and came back to the UK, and I sort of like, it was like hitting like ground zero, and I got back, and you know, like anyone that's had a breakup, you're kind of like this sort of like rock bottom where you're just like, you're sort of like day one in this like new world where you're like, okay, what now? I remember I was like sat, I didn't like have a house. I was just like staying at my parents. I was like sat on my mum's sofa, and I'd gained some weight, like, and I had like this dyed hair that was growing out, and I was like pale, and I looked like shit, and I was feeling so sorry for myself, and I was like, you know, just like licking my wounds a bit, and my mum came in and she was like, get up, stop feeling sorry for yourself, and go see your little brother. And it was you
Said no mum ever. By the way.
and I don't.
Go and see the handsome one.
Yeah. Go see your beautiful ripped brother in his Soho gym. But you guys are in the old spot, and I think that was the first session I did with you, because I'd been in LA, and I came down. I remember I was like so like sad and chubby and just like, and I got in, and I remember I threw up that session.
Yeah,
'cause
I
you,
remember.
you like worked me hard, and like I threw up in the toilet, and I just remember like the feeling before and the feeling after. Before it was just like, oh God, like I'm sad and fat and just like that. And then afterwards I was like, wow, I feel better.
puked.
And that was the start of me like kind of then being like, oh, everything's gonna be okay. And like, you know, and so like it's so like that was really powerful to me, like, you know, what like not only my brother but like what health and fitness can do, and like what you guys have provided for me. And that was kind of really the start of me like taking it seriously again, I think, because it hadn't been like a priority.
Were you then going back to LA, because you said there you'd been living there at
Yeah,
that time?
so LA's always been a part of my life, like on and off, and like over the last 10 years, just because it is like such a center of music and stuff. So there's been periods of my life where I've been living there, and my girlfriend Chloe and I have a place there that we share together, but then I have a place here, so it's a bit back and forth. But
what do you find it like over there, the contrast between like as a fitness scene? I suppose a lot of people are like, LA is this sort of like, it's full of weird gurus and like goat yoga.
I mean, the thing is, it's really easy to live like a goat yoga. It's really easy to lock in LA, and like as in, you know, there's not the same drinking culture, but I think that you have to drive everywhere. So like I'm very much like a roll out of bed and like go on a run just like before you even thought about it kind of person, or like, and it's harder to you can't like, or at least where I'm living, like it's not really like a
Do
running
you have to kind of
route.
factor it in? Because I guess
Yeah.
I remember you saying you started going and using like ice baths there and things like
Yeah.
that, where you go, right, I'm going to this place that does this thing.
Yeah, as I
you
started
add it
going
into your
back to
day.
LA after that like depressed chubby period, like then I started to take it seriously, and I would like go to a gym, and like I would kind of keep like a maintenance level, but like I do find that I see way more results when I'm here, just because you guys like this setup here, like, and you know, if I'm training here with Josh, like I'm pushed so much harder, and like you know, when you're training by yourself, it's just not, it's hard to have that same kind of tenacity, and you know, so I just find that whenever I'm here I drop weight. Also there's something to be said about like American produce and like the food, and it's that's a whole nother conversation, but there's more calories in everything.
Yeah, it's easier just to for that to go
allegedly.
unnoticed. Yeah.
That's not a conspiracy theory.
Can we talk a bit about like a lot of your professional life is touring, and there's like seasons to that, like there's the summer kind of party season. Can you like illustrate what that's actually like? 'Cause I think it's quite, people just rock up and they go to a show, but they don't realize you've been doing that for, that's the 5th show you've done, sometimes in a day or a week or whatever it might be.
It's funny because like a lot of people with the music thing, like a lot of people love to like, you'll see people be like impressed, being like, oh, it's not really like how you think it is, and it's actually it's pretty hard, and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of how you think it is a lot of the time. It's fucking wicked. Like, and okay, yes,
let me interject.
I was expecting the absolute opposite then.
Fact checkers here.
You're very positive about it there, for sure. There's been some times where I've come to LA or come to the US and gone to see Sam in a show, and he's like, yeah, this is the van we're sleeping on, and you like step on and there's like 8 blokes who haven't like showered for ages.
So what we realise is Sam loves sleeping in vans with 8 blokes, and that's fine.
It's a pastime.
There's a graft aspect to it.
Okay, let me rephrase that. I love this thing,
for sure.
And like I guess that it kind of like then makes the other things like it romanticizes them. Okay, so there's kind of 2 different like answers to this. There's live touring, which is what Josh is talking about, where you get on a tour bus with a load of like
your crew,
and people, but like
people who you're not that familiar living with.
You don't
Are
know.
those people different? Like when you turn up in a new country, you obviously have like your brother Alex as your manager, but you're not going to travel with a massive entourage, so you need like the technical guys to come with you at that point.
So yeah, you'll repeat with like people, you know, you'll have like great relationships with people, but they're essentially hired guns. So like, you know, you're like, I need a front of house, and so you'll go and like, depending on like where they're located, so how much is it going to cost to fly them somewhere, what kind of like skill set do they have, but you build this like team of people, and then because when you're live touring, you're putting on a show, so you need like lighting, you need sound, you need band members, you need tour managers, you need all these people. So that's why live touring can become extremely expensive versus DJ world, where you kind of get on a flight,
2 USBs,
turn out your USBs, plug in.
Do you enjoy that part of your year, that season, when it becomes almost like, it sounds like that's the moment it becomes a bit businessy then, when you're talking about like live show and touring? And then do you see like the DJ gigs, are they like the kind of respite from that?
So it's funny because like every time you do too much of any one thing, you kind of crave the other things. But like my favorite bit is making the music. Like I weirdly like, I was like a very introverted kid, and the idea of like being on stage was like very, and still is kind of like scary to me, and I kind of learned to be more like extroverted through just like exposure trauma. But the studio is my favorite bit, and then live shows, I'm proud of them, but like I am shit scared to go on stage a lot of the time when
you played at Coachella.
When I'm like singing
crowd,
and there's a lot of people, that is a very nerve-wracking experience. DJing to me is very fun and almost like kind of selfish. Like when I DJ, I'm really playing like for myself a lot of the time. Like I'm really like, sometimes I will get messages when I DJ being like, you didn't play this, because like, and people, you know, buy a ticket, they want to see their favorite artist play their favorite song, whatever. I'm not saying I'm their favorite artist, but what people don't understand is that like I like to DJ at parties because I'm socially awkward and because like
that's 2 hours of the party, whatever, where everyone likes you and
yeah.
no one's talking to you.
And like all I have to do is kind of like give a thumbs up when someone comes and chats to me, because like I can be like, and you know, in a setting where I'm comfortable, I might not feel socially awkward, but I can be like pretty anxious and a bit like socially awkward. So in parties where I don't know people and stuff, like people are always like, you've been DJing for 5 hours, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm perfect.
Exactly where I want to be.
Like, never really thought about that side of it. Like you're doing the thing you love in an environment where you're like your friends are there and all that kind of stuff, but you can interact with it on your terms. Yeah,
so. Because DJing, this is the thing. Like even when you made the joke about like oh you hit play and stuff, is like people, you see all this stuff online like Boiler Room and stuff where people are like, is it pre-recorded? Are they playing? And the answer is like, is DJing itself is not hard now. Like anyone in this room could learn the skill set to DJ, but the thing that is like not hard, but the thing that is a skill set is sharing your taste, right? It's like, it's not about like, oh, can you mix 2 120 tracks in time? Like anyone can learn to do that, but it's like the skill set is being in tune with a room or having your own taste that you're sharing with a room and being like, I know what I want to hear at this moment. So when I say it's selfish, yes, I'm reading the room, yes, I'm like interacting with the crowd or whatever and following that vibe, but like it's more that I'm in a room and I'm just at any moment thinking, well, what tune do I want to hear next? Over the years, I've spent a lot of time on the dance. I do like going to clubs. I still like going to clubs and watching DJs. And all I'm ever thinking is like, cool, if I was like DJing, if I was on the dance floor.
Yeah. You're curating that experience, aren't you? And you're like responsible for maintaining the right energy.
Yeah, like what song if the DJ played would I be like, wow, that's amazing. In that sense, it's just like I might get anxious before I DJ, but as soon as I start DJing, it's like,
Should also, quick interjection as well, like
fact check.
I don't give Sam a lot, but and I've spent a lot of time on, because Sam is my older brother. You know, both my older brothers work in electronic dance music. I spent a lot of time in nightclubs and watching sets at festivals, and like, you're a mustard DJ. You're a very, very good DJ, and I don't give you a lot.
Yeah, I will send you payment for saying that.
Well, I mean, Yaz always says that she's not the best DJ, but her talent comes in selecting songs, and that's why radio presenting is her thing. Then when she DJs to an audience, she knows a lot of music. She's listened to a lot of music, and she knows which song to pick to make everyone go, "This is fucking cool."
Yeah.
And the other thing with DJing is like, I've had moments where I'm like locked in, and I'm like, I'm the best DJ in the world. And in that moment, you're like, you know what? Fuck Carl Cox, it's me. And then you have moments where you're like, I could not mix cereal and milk. Like, you're just there and you're like,
I haven't heard of those guys.
Like, you're just like, you're there and you're like, I should never touch the decks again. Like, and that's like, that's the beauty of it. Like, that's like, and I'm sure that applies to so many things in creativity, but like, I have moments where I'm like, I'm horseshit at this. And then I have moments where I'm like, I'm Jesus Christ reincarnated on the deck.
This seems a perfect moment for us to bring Josh back in, J-Lo, because I want to bring us into our section that we've called Humbled in Hollywood. So often from the outside, it seems that guests on the show can have like this ideal life and nothing can ever go wrong. And we think it's you were almost kind of headed that way anyway. It's a nice opportunity to kind of share moments where that's not necessarily the case.
Let's go.
What I wanted to bring in was I think it might have been the first time you'd come in to hear like the BTL club format that we built.
I know what you're gonna say.
Where I was standing in the kitchen, Sam's walking across. I was like, hey mate, nice to see you, welcome back. We have some plants dotted around. Sam then proceeded to high-five a cactus.
I dapped up a cactus, and here's the thing.
I was like looking at you, and you look at me. I was like, that just happened, didn't it?
It's one of those things. Every time you come into like the social area in the club, you know, there's always people working, and it's kind of a moment where everyone's like, who's come through the door, and so you know, you're trying to like act cool, and then it's just like, just swang for it. And I was like, yeah,
It's kind of my fault being placed behind. It wasn't like to. It
Don't
was a
blame
small
yourself.
cactus.
He-
It was a
yeah,
little
he high-fived the
cactus.
cactus.
I wasn't hiding behind it.
yeah. Dave set it up.
Look,
Yeah, he's like,
is it a health and safety hazard? But yeah, I very enthusiastically just went for the dap up and high-fived the cactus. But this is kind of this is very typical of me throughout my life and career. It's like I have like infinite examples on this. The one that popped into my head was like my first ever festival DJ set, like major festival, was Park Life, and I was like 20 years old, I think 20, 21, anyway. And so my like best mate comes with me, Elliot, and like we go out to Park Life, and I'm opening one of the tents, right? So doors aren't even open. It's a big fucking tent at the time, and anyway, so start DJing, it's no one. Like the festival's not even open. And then like about 10 minutes into set, they open the gates, and probably like 10,000 people like run into the festival and into the tent because it's just the first tent that they see. They're just
Available,
like,
yeah.
they're just like, let's go.
Yeah.
And so it fills, and I'm like, ugh. And so play the set goes amazing, and I'm like on cloud 9, and then at the end, the next DJ's like setting up, and I'm clapping, and I'm walking backwards, and behind me on the floor is the booth monitor that is like firing, that's giving me the feed of, so it's like a big speaker on the floor, and I'm walking backwards, and I just go boom, like, arse over tits onto the floor, and the whole tent goes, and there was like this strange moment of like, I remember being on my back on this like festival stage, and I was staring because I hadn't quite like processed what was happening, and I was like, that's the roof of the tent, and I'm like on the floor.
Oh my hair.
And then there was like a fork in the road. It was like either I run backstage and like
Crawl
just,
off
like,
so
yeah,
no one sees
crawl
it.
off, or I like get up and own this. And so I stood up and just like did a bow, and they were like, "Hey!" And
That's the
then-
best thing you could have done.
Ah, but it was like I felt like every single point in my life, whenever I feel like I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty cool right now, something will happen
Humbled,
just to humble
yeah.
me.
What have you
It's
seen,
like-
Josh? What have you had?
Yeah, have you got any,
I
Josh?
was just trying to think about certain ones that I've thought with you. To be honest, off the top of my brain, just you've always been pretty cool to me. like,
Nah, it's
We
the-
we mentioned this to Josh earlier because I was like, you're coming in as fact checker,
Yeah.
and like it might be quite funny if Sam says something, and Josh's line was, yeah, he's gonna go like, yeah, and I was in the booth and there were loads of girls there, and Josh is gonna go, actually, it was
Yeah.
just Sarah Lewis, your mother. And I think she is there a lot, which is amazing.
It's funny, like we, like, you know, our parents, sort of like have discovered this thing through like what I do for a living, because like I said, my dad and where he grew up and like the work life that he lived, it wasn't really like a world where he went to music festivals or like had time or money to do that kind of thing growing up. So they sort of have discovered this thing third hand through what I do, and so watching them have this kind of like epiphany of sorts, you know, and I genuinely think that it's like changed my dad as a person, because like he was growing up, he was quite like a, you know, stiff upper lip, like tough like dad, quite like quite a serious man, and like, but they go to Glastonbury and they have a naughty joint.
a what?
And I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm gonna say.
no,
Anyway,
yeah.
they have a good time with their friends.
sure.
They're like, and it's very like, you know, kind of hippie almost, like
Yeah.
the Glastonbury thing. And so, it's kind of got to a point where we're adults now, and they like to be involved
Yeah.
to a point where there's no barrier.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, it was my 30th birthday in Ibiza, and like, they were like, yeah, so I invited them, and they were like, yeah, we'd love to come. So in my head, there was like a separate outhouse that they were in, and I was like, cool, like they can go get their sleep, like, and there's enough separation. Obviously that didn't happen. They ended up in Pasha watching Solomon with us till about 5 a.m. one night, and then there were also nights where they would go to bed a bit earlier, and a small renegade group of my friends would stay up all night, and so there would be this kind of like crossing where they would be waking up for the day, and my friends were still by the pool.
Yeah.
And so then my parents would there was a couple of guys that weren't staying in the villa with us, and they would like shuttle them back to their villa. Like these guys who just like can't even speak. So
It's so cool that though, because
It's
like
so good.
most parents aren't experiencing that, and like I'm sure all your mates are like lovely, nice people,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're just like your mum and dad
Some
are
of
like, right, let's get you
Some
to
of
bed. Let's
Yeah.
get you to bed, love.
yeah, they've been very like, you know, they understand the world now, and they understand like the safety. The safety and the risk of it as well, you know, like there's no denying that there's drink and drugs, and there's you can basically take it as far as you want to or as far as you don't want to, but like that's like anything in life, you know. It's so I think they've learned to trust like our kind of judgment and discipline
I
is
mean,
like
they treat you as adults, and also like when you grow up to the age that we are, you realize your parents are kids. You realize you are your parents. Like, they're the same as you. They have the same. So being able to kind of almost come together at that, which a lot of people don't get to do with their parents. They're always seen as a parent, and you're always seen as a child. Whereas it's now like you're on a level playing field now.
Yeah.
And that's quite entertaining.
It is, and we, you know, getting to see them like experience this thing, and you know, as a family, some of our like greatest moments have been like being in these environments together, and you know, like, and especially as we're all adults now, like, you know, that's kind of like the things we do to create memories together. You know,
it's like, you go and have a bit of fun. Let's go. To Ibiza, go clubbing.
Because I think some people look at that and be like, oh, I don't want my parents in passion with me. But it's
But you don't know that. Until you do it.
I've actually
what a
thought
wholesome
as
way.
well. I thought of a good Humbled in Hollywood. I've been thinking that entire time there. But we were in Avoriaz in France. Sam was playing Snowbox Festival. This was only a couple of weeks ago. And you look so worried.
This is why we brought you in.
And Sam has just played at Folie Douce. Folie Douce, is that how you pronounce it?
Deuce?
Folie Douce.
I don't think it's a douche.
Folie douche.
Folie whatever it
Fondle
is.
a douche.
What did you call me?
And Sam's been DJing for like the last hour or whatever, and then he comes down to the crowd and we're all like dancing, and I think it was Danny Howard on next who's DJing, and a few people were like coming over and getting a couple of photos of Sam saying hi or whatever, and then a guy walks over to me and he's like, "Can I get a photo with Danny?" And I was like, Danny? And he's like, yeah, Danny Howard. I was like, it's not Danny Howard. He goes, who is it? I go, it's S.G. Lewis. He goes, all right. I was like, still want the photo? He's like, nah. Off I go.
Perfect. And next week on the Before Lights podcast, Danny Howard.
Yeah.
No, actually, one more of those that just like popped into my head. It's a similar thing. Is like I was waiting side the stage to go on, and like there's another DJ on, and these girls in the front row were like waving at me, and so like I like wave back, and then they were like doing this, like doing the camera like hand signal, and I was like, oh, they want a photo, and I was like, 1 second, like I don't want to like interrupt this person's set, you know, be taking photos in front. So I was like, I'll come down in a second. I like sort of hand signaled it 'cause it's very loud in there. So I'm about to go on, so I jump down, I go down, and then the girls in the front row, they're like, okay, hand me the camera, put their arms down each other. And I was like, I just took the photo, handed the camera back, like walked back onto the stage and straight behind the decks. And then I looked at them and they were like,
Look at you, and you're like right in front of them.
The ultimate trick there is if they'd have gone back to their phone and you flipped the camera and just taken a picture of yourself smiling, being like, "This is the guy that's about to DJ."
It's you know, it's always a good like humbling exercise, and also
absolutely.
like, you know, it's not like, I think that you know, having any kind of like music fame is a weird word, is always funny because like, you know, it's like such a small cross section of people. Like I walk down the street and like maybe one person like a day says hello. Like it's not like anyone in Tesco's is like, oh my god, so like
that's where the music fame and the kind of acting fame or like the pop star fame are very different. Like being someone in a I've had friends like, or just people I've met over the last 10 years who are like actually famous, and you get an insight into their life, and like
it takes a bit of the fun out, doesn't it?
It's a scary beast.
You can't go and just live a normal way.
I have a friend who was like a very famous pop star who we went to. I'm not showing off. And that's the end of the story. But like we went for a beer in a beer garden, and like he was like very, you know, kept his cap low and sunglasses on. And I was like, you'll be fine. And like he was like, you know, and I thought he was being dramatic, but obviously sit down, having a beer. 5 minutes later, one person comes up. 2 people come up, 5 people come up,
and you're like,
floodgates.
yes, it's me.
I was like,
I will take a picture with you.
what, you mean you don't know superstar DJs? And then all of a sudden, you know, 10 minutes later, we'd have to leave the pub.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Crazy.
that's
That's
crazy. It's been great fun.
It's been amazing. I
Yeah.
loved it. Loved every second.
Awesome.
So good.
What's
been
next in your year? What's happening
so,
for you?
depending on when this drops, we're
Summer. Let's say what's in summer this year.
Okay, so I have my new album,
Yeah, you do.
Anamoya, coming probably late summer. I don't know the exact date off the top of my head, but so we're gonna be releasing music from that. We have a bunch of stuff in Ibiza, including our label party, Forever Days, which I am also forgetting the date of the party, but it's on my Instagram. And then yeah, we're gonna be playing some festivals and stuff, but really the main focus is releasing the music,
Yeah.
Nice.
getting the tunes to the
album
people,
year.
album year, and then it's
Absolutely.
gonna be touring for a long
Then
time.
we'll have you in the gym, get the fitness up.
I need to shift a bit of podge. I literally just heard my stomach rumbling.
Right on
Jimmy-
cue.
Jimmy probably heard that. Looking
Thank you
fresh
very
smart.
much, mate. That
Thank
was
you,
so
guys.
good.
Really
And thank you,
enjoyed
Josh
that.
Lewis, for joining us
I
as
really
well.
enjoyed
J-Lo.
that. I really
Hello.
enjoyed that.
Thank you guys, and thank you
Cheers.
for letting me train at this beautiful
Oh, no,
establishment.
you are always welcome.